Cold Star Doctrine is a military doctrine developed by the Indian Armed Forces for use in a possible war with Pakistan. It involves the various branches of India's military conducting offensive operations as part of unified battle groups. Today, the guest of our show is Brigadier Asif Haroon. He will be discussing briefly the Cold Start Doctrine. Welcome to our show, Brigadier Asif Haroon. This is Zain Khan.
Same here, Zain. It's a pleasure. I'm sorry to hear about your backache and hope you are now doing well.
Starting off with the first question, Brigadier Asif, why did India develop the Cold Start Doctrine?
Well, then, the Cold Start Doctrine is getting on our nerves and it's under discussion for quite some time. And it is India which is, trying to propagate and making something, they say, making a mountain out of a mole. So I may like to now put the thing in the right perspective that after all, why did they feel the need to develop this new terminology, Cold Start Doctrine, which looks very odd and what it is. Now, you see, looking back, till such time that Pakistan had carried out its nuclear tests way back in May 1998, and that was also in response to India's nuclear tests in the same month. If you recall, India had a clear-cut ascendancy over Pakistan in conventional capability, both in terms of numerical and qualitative superiority. And that ranged from 3 or 3.1 to 1, and at the point of decision, shooting up to 6 also. But after our nuclear tests, Pakistan achieved nuclear parity with India and maintained a strong nuclear deterrence. Why? Because of its superior nuclear weapon systems and delivery systems. So from that time onwards, open war became too risky for India, and it was almost ruled out as an attractive option. So they then started looking for other ways how to go about in the future. So this very deterrence which Pakistan achieved, it had prevented wars in 1990, if you recall, when this Kashmir heated up, 1990-91. Then again after Mumbai, 2001 November, and going into 2002, that was the attack on the parliament in 2001 December, and then 2008 Mumbai attack. So these three occasions, there were signs that the war may break out, but this nuclear factor came in. So covert war was therefore considered most profitable option as far as India was concerned. Pakistan's nuclear program then became an eyesore for India, but also for USA and Israel. And all the three desperately wanted to disable it. Now, 9/11 changed the whole scenario and favored India on all counts. So now, after 9/11, that once Afghanistan was occupied in November 2001 by the United States and its Western allies, India, Israel, later the Karzai government and all, they grouped together and then they chalked out a comprehensive covert plan against Pakistan, how to denuclearize it.
What was the objective behind it?
Right. Now, the point is, as I mentioned earlier, that nuclear program was an eyesore for the three countries. They wanted to nuclearize it, denuclearize it. They couldn't do it. How could they do it? Because conventionally Pakistan was strong. It had a nuclear deterrence with it and all that. So they had to go for an indirect strategy. Now, this indirect strategy was formulated in which India was, of course, given the lead role, and all other, countries, their intelligence agencies, they support this covert plan. And the basic ingredients of this devious plan were, firstly, to cleverly push terrorism into Pakistan and embroil maximum security forces in the war on terror. Then dilute Kashmiri freedom movement, which was at that stage had reached a very dangerous level, and that too with the help of Pakistan. And as circumstances were, Pakistan did help in curtailing the freedom movement. That was unfortunate. Next, destabilize Pakistan politically, weaken it economically, and make it a failing state, and bring it to a stage wherein it either agrees voluntarily to hand over the nukes for food, or is not in a position to defend its nuclear arsenal, and they can then sweep at it with one side militarily. Next, defame nuclear program by saying it is unsafe and will fall in wrong hands. Also, the plan was to discredit Pakistan Army and ISAF because these were the two first-line defenses which had to be weakened to achieve their nasty objectives. Then, along with that, was the launching of cultural invasion, Western cultural invasion and the Indian invasion through media and other means to dilute the fighting spirit of the youth and make them fun-loving. Now, in this, what were the most important things you remember? To stoke insurgency in Fatah, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Balochistan, and make Karachi restive at a later date. And simultaneous to these efforts were development of cold start doctrine to be able to defeat the Pakistan Army in case the objectives that I have spelled out were not achieved through covert war. This is why the cold start doctrine was developed in 2000. They started working on it in 2008, and by 2007-8, they were saying that they were now ready with the doctrine to use it.
Did it succeed in achieving its objectives?
Now, the first we'll have to see that what were, of course, the objectives behind the cold start doctrine. Now, the main objective of the cold start doctrine was to offset Pakistan's nuclear doctrine, which rested on first strike option and resorting to strategic nuclear response against major city, any one, two, or any, once our core areas were threatened to be overrun or overwhelmed by the invading enemy forces. Indian military devised a strategy to achieve maximum gains in the battle of frontiers, that is along the borders, without threatening our core areas and thus not giving us a justifiable cause to Pakistan military to use its strategic nuclear weapons against major targets in India. You got the point? Because our nuclear doctrine rested on the strategic weapon, use of strategic weapons, that once the core areas were threatened, then we'll go for the nuclear option against the major cities. So said, all right, you keep that, we'll not reach your the threshold that you have given, and we will decide the thing along the battle of frontier. In normal conventional war, India takes about 21 days to mobilize and deploy its forces along our border due to long distances. Their cantonments are far deep, in the central India and that kind. So it takes that much of time. Whereas our cantonments are much closer to the border and takes much shorter time to reach the border, thus putting India at a disadvantage in times of war, at the start of the war. Now, to offset this time lag, cold start doctrine envisaged cutting down deployment time of the troops from 21 to 3 days only by pre-commissioning self-contained independent battle groups, which called IBGs, independent battle groups, towards the border. So one IBG, that consists of summer regiments, one armored infantry battalion, dedicated artillery, logistic, air support, and even the tactical nuclear weapons. And in this, to start with, 8 sensitive objectives were selected by India, located close to our border, and loss of any could have had strategic effects overall. Now, this number was later on increased to 15. More so, unlike India, Pakistan seriously lacks strategic depth and thus cannot afford to lose any space, particularly because our major cities, as you know, are located very close to the border. So it was assumed by Indian military that by attacking all the 8 or maybe 15 or so many objectives and capturing some, if not all, it will force Pakistan military to employ its tactical, operational, and even strategic reserves in the Battle of Frontiers, or as a minimum, deflect its strategic reserves in a specific corridor to prevent the loss of a tactical objective located close to the border, because we cannot afford to lose any space. Right. Now, after making us commit our strategic reserve in a specific area, then the Indian military would launch its main maneuver with its main strategic forces, and preferably in the Vedi Rangyar Khan sector, where they have been making preparations since early 1990s. They have developed roadheads and whatnot, all their mechanized forces and their deployment show that kind of a tilt in that direction, where it can generate maximum combat power with its rapid and armored forces. And now, what is the importance of that area? It is, the GT road and the railway line is closest, and it is the narrowest space in the whole length of our country. And once it is cut, it cuts Sindh from the rest of Pakistan. So this is the significance of that. And then they had much deeper designs and objectives that, go across Indus and then exploit the Obado Gap and even head towards Suri and Bukti area. And now, if you recall and you see this in the overall perspective, their sensitive design, after all, why Karachi has been made restive? Why Balochistan has been made restive? Why those political forces have been activated and all that? So as to gain political support once the military forces had reached there. So this was, in a nutshell, what I am trying to explain.
Last question, Brigadier Asif. The Indian Chief of Army Staff has threatened surgical strikes. What's the difference between surgical strikes and a limited war in relation to the Cold Star Doctrine?
Well, then, surgical strike is usually carried out by air against a specific target and is a one-time affair. If you recall, in 1980s and early 1990s, there was a lot of talk of surgical strike by Indo-Israeli jets on Kauka plant, and twice such a plan had been made and was averted by giving strong warning to India. And again, if you remember, after Mumbai attacks in November 2008, India wanted to carry out surgical strike at Murid K and alleged training camps in Azad Kashmir. And Indian jets had once taken off but turned their tail once our F-16s were airborne. They are again thinking of this option because they want action against Hafiz Saeed and Lakshmi of Jamaat al-Dawa, and also allege that disturbances in occupied Kashmir are Pakistan created. Pakistan, as you know, has given a very stern warning that in case of surgical strike, it will be responded with bigger strike, and if repeated, may even resort to tactical nuclear weapons. And let me caution India that surgical strike will not remain a localized affair, but will spread to full-fledged war.